It is well known that the families of the elder generation in the Chinese Communist Party, (CCP), often referred to as the senior proletarian revolutionaries within the party, had their children and grandchildren swiftly join the ranks of the first to get rich in response to China's former CCP leader Deng Xiaoping's call. These descendants transformed into red capitalists, which mostly occurred in the last century. Since the start of this century, however, the methods and frenzy with which the grandchildren of CCP elders have amassed wealth have surpassed even their parents' generation. A saying that circulated during Deng Xiaoping's era was that after the great changes in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, CCP elders feared a similar fate in China. They feared their ancestral graves would be exhumed. Chen Yun, who ranked below Deng Xiaoping in the party, proposed that power should remain in the hands of the elders' generation's descendants. Chen Yun's concept of power included not only political power but also economic power. According to the strategic arrangement unanimously agreed upon by the entire CCP elder group, the Red descendants, also known as the princelings, saw some enter the party government and military systems, while others joined state-owned enterprises or went into business. They used their political connections to accumulate wealth and economic power. In fact, as China's first family, the Deng Xiaoping family and other princelings, before the great changes in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, had already begun to amass huge profit through corruption, particularly in the form of official reselling. This led them to become a target of attack by Chinese students and the public before and after the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests. Official reselling was a product of the CCP's reform and opening up in the 1980s. Back then, some senior officials or their relatives used their power to obtain important goods at low prices and resold them on the market to make a profit. During the 1989 Tiananmen Square protest in China, one of the major demands of the protesting students and the public was to smash official reselling. One of the most famous companies involved in official reselling was China Kanghua Development Corporation, founded by Deng Xiaoping's eldest son, Deng Xiaoping, and others. From 1949 to 1976, during the 27 years of Mao Zedong's rule, the country's class struggle plunged China into a state of near collapse. After Mao's death, Hua Guofen took power, but then Deng Xiaoping experienced an internal party struggle oust Hua in 1978 after Deng seized real power. He proposed that some people should get rich first. History tells us that the best way to get rich quickly is to privatize public assets, and the people most able to do this were the children of the powerful and privileged. Among them, the most powerful in privatizing public assets was Deng Xiaoping's eldest son, Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping was a disabled person who was paralyzed as a result of persecution during the Cultural Revolution. In 1983, there were about 50 million disabled people in China, and Deng Xiaoping began using the excuse of advocating for their welfare to amass wealth. The China Disabled Persons Foundation, founded on March 15, 1984, became Deng Xiaoping's domain from the start, attracting numerous members of the CCP's princelings faction. Under the guise of the Disabled Person Welfare Foundation, donations flowed in. How much did the philanthropist donate, and how were the funds allocated? This was considered a state secret. In March 1988, with investment from the Disabled Person Foundation and the then Central Planning Commission, Deng Xiaoping established a state-owned enterprise, China Kanghua Development Corporation. The CCP State Council approved its business scope, including industrial investment, technology development, and project contracting, consulting services, and trust investment. Within just a few months of its establishment, Kanghua Corporation rapidly expanded. It had branches everywhere from Harbin in the north to Guangzhou and Shenzhen in the south. In Shanghai, there were 7 branches, in Wuhan 4, in Guangzhou 7, in Nanjing 5, and in Jiangsu province alone there were 35 Kanghua branches. In no time, a senior economic delegation from the United States arrived to negotiate with Kanghua, hoping to transfer the entire set of production equipment for the C-130 aircraft to China. Japan also sent a senior delegation to negotiate with Kanghua, aiming to invest in China and build a steel plant comparable in size to Baosteel. Hong Kong's Sky Associates Incorporation also approached Kanghua, introducing the largest IAB insurance company in the US, seeking to cooperate with Kanghua to dominate the insurance market in mainland China. Japan's Itochu Corporation actively sought out Kanghua, offering to provide a loan of $1 billion at an annual interest rate of 4.5%. Even Hammer Corporation, one of the first American companies to do business with the Soviet Union, approached Kanghua for business discussions. In a short time, Kanghua had opened only a small door, and its subsidiary companies skyrocketed from 7 to more than 60. People across China exclaimed, "Hasn't this turned into the Kanghua Republic?" Kanghua Corporation was closely tied to the official reselling phenomenon of the 1980s and enjoyed tax-exempt status. Between 1985 and 1989, for 5 years, Deng Xiaoping found ways to import materials that the government had prohibited. Likewise, he managed to export materials that the government had restricted. For example, at one point, China imposed a restriction on cement exports, but Deng Xiaoping found a way to export domestic cement to Hong Kong and import cement from Japan through Shanghai. Deng Xiaoping used this in-and-out maneuver with cement to make enormous profits. What others were forbidden to do, he managed to do. This was official reselling. Another example, in 1985, Deng Xiaoping received official approval to import obsolete, non-importable NC370 video recorders from Japan's Panasonic at scrap prices. He bought them at waste material prices and sold them to the public at monopolistic prices, using this illegal method to deceive ordinary people. The spark for the 1989 Tiananmen Square student democracy movement was the sudden death of CCP General Secretary Hu Yaobang on April 15, 1989. At that time, many students from universities like Peking University spontaneously gathered at Tiananmen Square to mourn Hu. This mourning soon evolved into a movement against corruption, against official reselling, and for democracy and freedom. Since the students' opposition to official reselling directly threatened the rapid accumulation of wealth by the Deng family, Deng Xiaoping fabricated reasons and ordered the suppression of the student movement. One of the reasons for the ousting of former CCP General Secretary Zhao Ziyang, who sympathized with the students, was his intention to investigate the corruption within the Deng family. According to Zhao Ziyang's political secretary Bao Tong, before the 1989 Tiananmen Square protest, Zhao had ordered an investigation into Deng Xiaoping's Kanghua Corporation. Bao recalled that Deng Xiaoping's family was unhappy with the investigation into Kanghua Corporation. Bao, who was the director of the Political System Reform Research Office at the time, said that one day Deng Xiaoping's daughter, Deng Nan, came to his office and asked, "Oh, Bao, why do you want to investigate Kanghua?" Bao told her, "Investigating Kanghua is a decision made by the State Council." Deng Nan responded, "I disagree," and left angrily. Zhao's order to investigate Deng Xiaoping's son, Deng Xiaoping, was seen as directly challenging the qis of the CCP elders led by Deng Xiaoping. This is considered one of the key reasons why Deng Xiaoping and other CCP elders orchestrated Zhao's downfall. Zhao's opposition to Deng Xiaoping's order to send the military to suppress the student was another key reason for his removal. However, after the Tiananmen Square massacre, under pressure, Deng Xiaoping reluctantly agreed to the liquidation of Kanghua. In 1990, Kanghua parent company was dissolved, and its subsidiaries were reorganized and absorbed into various state-owned companies. At the time, 14 subsidiaries were shut down and 42 subsidiaries were merged or transferred. Deng Xiaoping and his China Disabled Persons Foundation enjoyed great success because of Kanghua, but they quickly became infamous due to the company's scandal. Among Deng Xiaoping's descendants, aside from Deng Xiaoping, each has found their own path of wealth. For instance, Deng Xiaoping's eldest daughter, Deng Ling, is married to Wu Jiancheng, who served as the general manager of the China Non-Ferrous Metal Industry Group Corporation. Deng Xiaoping's third daughter, Deng Rong, served as the vice president of the China International Friendship Association. Her husband, He Ping, also a member of the Red Second Generation, was the chairman and general manager of China Poly Group Corporation. Deng Xiaoping's second son, Deng Zhifang, once served as the chairman of CITIC Industrial Investment Group Corporation, a subsidiary of China International Trust Investment Corporation, and the general manager of Shanghai Shifan Company. Deng Xiaoping's granddaughter, Zhuo Ran, worked at Bank of China International. Her husband, a new billionaire in the Deng family, was Wu Xiaohui, the former chairman of Anbang Insurance Group before he was imprisoned. Now 38 years old, Deng Zhuodi, the son of Deng Xiaoping's second son, Deng Zhifan, studied in the United States. After returning to China, he held positions such as vice county mayor and party secretary of Xian town in Puguo County, Baisha City, Guangxi. He stepped down in 2016. In April 2024, Deng Zhuodi became a supervisor at CITIC Finance Co., Limited, a subsidiary of CITIC Group, a central state-owned enterprise founded by Red capitalist Rong Yi-ren in 1979 with Deng Xiaoping's support. The Deng family remained relatively unaffected during the eras of CCP leaders Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao. However, after the current CCP leader Xi Jinping came to power, he emulated Mao Zedong, aiming to establish a lifelong rule, consolidating power in his own hands and preventing other Red second-generation families from sharing power. Xi sought to transform the Red regime from the party's domain into his own personal family rule. He also selectively used anti-corruption campaigns to target Red families or businessmen managing wealth for Red families, such as Wu Xiaohui, in an effort to purge them. Wu Xiaohui once worked at Shanghai Standard Infrastructure Investment Group Corporation Limited and SAIC under the leadership of Chen Xiaolu, the son of CCP Marshal Chen Yi. He and Deng Xiaoping's granddaughter, Zhuo Ran, were colleagues and they married in 2004. Wu Xiaohui rose to prominence through Anbang Insurance Group. On September 13, 2004, Anbang Property and Casualty Insurance Co., Limited was established in Ningbo, Zhejiang Province. In 2012, Anbang Insurance Group Co., Limited was founded. Thanks to his title as the son-in-law of the Deng family, in just 13 years, Anbang Group accumulated a total asset value of nearly 2 trillion yuan. After Wu Xiaohui became the chairman and CEO of Anbang Insurance on November 19, 2013, the company began a large-scale acquisition spree, both domestically and internationally. In December 2013, Anbang Insurance acquired Century Securities for nearly 1.7 billion yuan, taking a 91.65% stake. In 2014, Anbang Insurance Group acquired the New York Waldorf Astoria Hotel, a part of Hilton Worldwide, for 1.95 billion. In the same year, Anbang also fully acquired the Belgian insurance company FIDEA and the Belgian Delta Lloyd Bank. In 2015, Anbang acquired the Dutch insurance company Vivat for at least 1.4 billion euros, purchased 57.5% of South Korea's Dongyan Life Insurance from private equity firm Volgo, and invested 1.59 billion in cash to acquire the US-based insurance company Fidelity and Guarantee Life, a landmark acquisition as the first Chinese company to acquire a US life insurance company. On March 14, 2016, Anbang Insurance acquired Strategic Hotel and Resort and its 17 luxury hotels and resorts spread across the United States for 6.5 billion from Blackstone Group. In April, Alliance Group sold its Korean subsidiaries Alliance Life Insurance Korea and Alliance Asset Management Korea to Anbang Overseas subsidiary. In the domestic market, by 2016, Anbang held 16.8% of the Air shares of China Minsheng Banking Corporation. However, on June 14, 2017, Wu Xiaohui was taken into custody by Chinese authorities. On May 10, 2018, he was sentenced to 18 years in prison for fundraising fraud and had 10.5 billion yuan of assets confiscated. In the following year, another 75.2 billion yuan in illegal proceeds were seized from him. Since Anbang is a private company after all, Wu Dengzuo, the only son of Wu Xiaohui and Deng Xiaoping's granddaughter Deng Zuoran, should have legally inherited its wealth. However, Xi Jinping ordered the assets to be taken away. Whether the assets were to be transferred to state-owned or party-owned, there is no distinction in Xi Jinping's mind. Although Deng Xiaoping's granddaughter had long since divorced and distanced herself, the Wu Xiaohui incident is still seen as a blow to the Deng family. As for Xi Jinping's treatment of the Deng family, some analysis suggest that the enmity between Deng Xiaoping and Xi Jinping's father, Xi Rongxun, dates back to the fierce internal struggles among the first generation of CCP leaders. In 1952, Mao Zedong, then the CCP leader, sought to reduce local powers by bringing key regional military and political figures including Gao Gang, Deng Xiaoping, and Xi Zhongxun to Beijing. Deng Xiaoping was appointed vice premier of the State Council, while Xi Zhongxun became the minister of the CCP's propaganda department. At that time, Liu Shaoqi was seen as Mao Zedong's successor, and these regional leaders were part of the future leadership pipeline. Xi Zhongxun was nearly 10 years younger than Deng Xiaoping, and both were potential successors. In 1954, Mao Zedong, seeking to balance the various factions and maintain his dominant position, encouraged Gao Gang to oppose Liu Shaoqi. When Gao attempted to join forces with Deng Xiaoping to challenge Liu, Deng reported Gao's plans to Mao, forcing Mao to abandon Gao. In 1955, Xi Zhongxun, implicated in the Gao Gan affair, was ordered to publicly distance himself and undergo self-criticism. Xi failed twice to meet the required standards but passed on his third attempt. The person who opposed his passing was Deng Xiaoping. After the CCP's 8th Congress in 1956, Deng Xiaoping became a member of the Politburo Standing Committee, while Xi Zhongxun was only a Central Committee member. In 1962, Xi became the leading figure of the anti-party group, and Deng, then the CCP General Secretary, worked alongside Kang Shen to suppress Xi. After the Cultural Revolution, the conflict between Deng Xiaoping and Xi Zhongxun did not end. Initially, Deng opposed Xi's return to politics, insisting that Xi had to guarantee alignment with him before being allowed to return. In April 1978, although Xi made a political comeback, he was not allowed to return to Beijing and did not regain his previous position as vice premier. Instead, he was sent to Guangdong province to work. Because both Deng Xiaoping and Chen Yun opposed rehabilitating Gao Gang, it had an impact on Xi Zhongxun. The official CCP notification regarding Xi's rehabilitation from the anti-party group was only issued in 1980. In 1990, Xi Zhongxun was approved by the central government to rest in the south, which in reality meant he was demoted and exiled from Beijing. It wasn't until 1999, on the 50th anniversary of the CCP's founding, that Xi returned to Beijing to attend the celebrations, by which time Deng Xiaoping had already passed away. A party history expert within the system once revealed that Xi Jinping had always believed that Deng Xiaoping was the key person responsible for the persecution of Xi Zhongxun. After Xi Jinping came to power, the Deng family gradually became marginalized. Among the notable events was the heavy sentence and asset seizure of Wu Xiaohui, Deng Xiaoping's former grandson-in-law who founded Anbang Group. This was effectively aimed at the Deng family. On September 20, 2023, during the China Disabled Persons Federation re-election conference held in Beijing, Deng Xiaoping's honorary chairmanship of the federation was taken over by Xi Jinping's trusted ally, Yang Xiaodu, the former director of the CCP's National Supervisory Commission. This marked the complete exit of Deng Xiaoping, who had controlled the federation for half his life, from the political stage. Deng Xiaoping's most powerful representative was thus silenced. Xi Jinping came in power in late 2012, and after a 5-year term, his shift to more left-wing political and economic policies caused great dissatisfaction among the Red second generation. When the Red second generation supported Xi Jinping's rise to power, they expected him to effectively safeguard their vested interest. However, after Xi came to power, he almost marginalized the Red second generation within the power center. Under the guise of anti-corruption campaigns, Xi took strong actions against certain Red second generation families and related individuals, offending many. Xi Jinping disrupted the principles set by CCP elder Chen Yun, who advocated for power to remain in the hands of one's own people. Now, not only has the economic power held by the Red second generation been significantly reduced, but their political power has also suffered a tremendous blow. The CCP elders sought to place both political and economic power in the hands of the princelings families in order to ensure that, in the event of a major upheaval in China similar to the collapse of the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, these Red families would still have enough economic power to reverse the situation. However, Xi Jinping's series of actions has completely destroyed the strategic arrangement. Additionally, Deng Xiaoping's hide one's capabilities and bide one's time foreign policy effectively lulled Western countries into a false sense of security. From Deng Xiaoping's era through Jiang Zemin's and Hu Jintao's period, the CCP's elites, mainly from the Red second and third generations, were able to move substantial assets overseas. Although these assets were nominally owned by these officials, they were in reality Red capital infiltrating the Western world, forming a powerful economic foundation for the CCP's united front and penetration strategy within Western countries. After Xi Jinping came to power, he abandoned Deng Xiaoping's foreign policy and shifted to a wolf warrior diplomacy, making enemies everywhere. His biggest diplomatic blunder was treating the United States, which had provided immense assistance to China in markets, capital, technology, talent, and services, as a number one enemy, worsening Sino-American relations to their lowest point in over 40 years of diplomatic ties. Australia-based scholar Yuan Hongbing revealed that if Xi Jinping were to initiate a war against Taiwan, Western countries like the US, Europe, and Japan would likely freeze the overseas assets held by the CCP's Red second-generation families for their proxies, similar to how they acted against Russian officials after the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war. This has caused unease among the Red second-generation families. Currently, various factions within the CCP's Red second-generation families have reached a consensus and are attempting to prevent Xi from securing re-election at the 21st National Congress.